Again, I want to say or give a very warm welcome to everybody. My name is Paul Reimer with the Ames Center. I'm thoroughly privileged to welcome you all here today to gather as we begin our series of community of practice sessions for the California Early Math Initiative 2020-2021. Welcome. It's good to see you all here. You are, I'm sure you're familiar with how Zoom works a bit more than maybe you were as we got started with this back in early 2020. So if you would like to have your camera on, we welcome that. I think our preference is to see you and your interaction. But of course, if you feel more comfortable with it off, that's okay as well. We do ask that if you would please keep your microphones off until you are ready to speak or have an opportunity to interact. That just kind of helps us to keep background noise to a minimum as well. So again, I just want to give you a warm welcome on behalf of the Ames Center, on behalf of our partners with the Early Math Initiative as we continue in this extension of our original project, which was set to conclude in September of 2020, we were able to offer an extension, a no-cost extension, to continue this important work. And so we're excited to do that in this form. We know that we're not able to meet in person, so we're continuing in a virtual format. As you remember, our second institute, our summer institute, was quite different than our first summer institute. We did not meet in person. We met virtually for a 2-day institute, and but at the same time, I think we were able to connect, to continue our learning together, and to share valuable and meaningful impacts from the work that we had all done over the course of this project. So if you were with us through that phase and through that stage, welcome back. If you are new and were not with us during the first iteration of this project, we want to give you an especially warm welcome and glad to have new folks on board. So welcome to you. We hope we don't have too many inside jokes that you won't be a part of. I don't think we do, but we're excited to bring you into this community and to both learn with you and to learn from you. So again, we want to just give everybody a very, very warm welcome, and we'll have opportunities to continue to interact as we carry on. We're joined today by members of our Ames team. I know that Matilda is joining us as well. Matilda, do you know if there are any other members of your team joining us today?
I believe my senior director, Lupus, should be on perhaps a little bit late. Those of you that are in the ECE field know about all the changes on the state level. And so she's actually participating in a meeting with California Department of Social Services, but she should be here but a little bit later.
Super. Well, welcome to you, Matilda, and to the team, and to all of our partnering organizations. I want to give you all a warm welcome. Glad to have you on board. We know that your schedules are busy and are full, and that you have a lot on your plate. So we're grateful to you for spending this time with us as we move forward with this work as well. I also see that one of our new colleagues, Hannah, is joining us from Worcester Polytechnic Institute. Hannah is a graduate researcher and is joining us to take part in some of this work. So I just want to say hi, Hannah, and welcome as well. So we'll continue some of the work that we began with the beginning of this initiative. So I just kind of want to take a few minutes of introduction as we get started, and to sort of frame how the time that we have today will be spent and the ways in which we will work together to do that. So just to sort of give an overview today, we're going to spend some time just sort of checking in, welcoming, and reconnecting. And following that, we'll take some time to continue our work in learning and engaging together in early childhood mathematics and beyond. And one of the goals that we have for this work together is that we can begin to and continue to think about ways to engage in important and meaningful mathematics activity that's hands-on and connected to the world around us, but to also recognize that we're doing that in a virtual environment. So we've asked in advance if you were able to gather a few materials that you may need for this, and we'll visit that a little bit more detail later on throughout the session today. But we're going to do some hands-on line work. It's hands-on and it's online. It's a combination. And we'll be looking at shape viewfinders. So we're excited about that. We'll be doing that in our regional base groups. We'll take a brief break, and then we'll spend a bit of time in some roundtable conversation groups to really begin to sort of plumb the depths of how we might move forward together. We'll visit some important questions, and we want to hear from you. We want to hear about the things that you're doing, the things that are working well for you, and the ways in which you would like to use this community to support your work, both to contribute to this community and to also gain support from the community. And then we'll conclude, and Matilda will share a few more highlights related to our project together and some of the resources that are available to you all. So because we don't have an institute this time around, we're really focusing our attention in on this community of practice. And this community has grown and has developed over time, and in part is really guided by some of the fundamental ideas about communities of practice. And these were put forth by Etienne Wenger and colleagues in sort of the way that they crafted the idea of a community of practice. And it's centered around three important elements. The first is that it's a domain. We share a domain of interest. And this is sort of the what of our work together. What are we interested in? Why are we gathering together? And sort of what topics or key ideas really ground our work together. It's formed by a community of people where there's trust, there are relationships, and those things are built through discussion, through activity and learning. And the community that we're developing together here is a part of the broader early childhood mathematics education community, both here in our state and beyond. And so we recognize that by forming community here, we are leveraging the unique assets and insights that we bring to this work, but we know that we are also parts of other communities and situated in larger, broader communities. So we really hope that we can both see the unique value in this group, this early math initiative group, but we can also see it spreading into the other communities in which we work. And then finally, it's anchored around important practices. What's the body of knowledge that we're developing as we share practices together and leverage the tools that we develop, the methods, the stories, the ways in which we work together? What are those resources that we all come to rely on that are shared? So I just kind of want to highlight how this community of practice has evolved through our work together. We began this project around some core ideas that would anchor our learning together. We began in the first summer to explore ideas around learning theory and how children learn. When we talked a lot about identity in mathematics and mindsets, we talked about the overwhelmingly common math anxiety that many of us experience, many children experience in families. And we talked about ways to sort of address that and to create experiences where people could develop confidence. We looked at professional noticing as a way to begin to attend to and draw out and elicit the kinds of thinking and learnings that children are experiencing. We explored high quality professional learning, connecting the foundations and standards, but also looking at our role as adults as learners. And we looked at culturally relevant pedagogy as a way to understand that mathematics and science are not culturally neutral domains, but are embedded in everyday activity, are embedded in cultural expressions and ways of knowing. And then finally, we sort of really honed in on children's mathematics and science. We looked at number sense ideas and spatial reasoning, the benefit of making and tinkering in problem solving at young ages, and even in coding. I was excited to see several of our organizations take up early robotics and coding as a means to engage children in thinking about how to program robots to carry out commands. So this domain will continue to guide our work as we go forward. We want to go deeper into these ideas. Second, our community was formed by the ways in which we drew together and built relationships, the ways in which we gathered around tables to learn together, and ways in which we met on Zoom for coaching conversations, and the ways that we shared implementation plan updates throughout the year. We're excited to strengthen this community, to build on it, to draw in new members of our community, to reach out to new stakeholders who are invested in this work. And finally, our practice. What were the shared tools and resources and strategies that we developed? There are many, and I'm just highlighting a few here, but a few of the examples of projects that you all took up and took on, building on resources that were provided by our colleagues at West Ed with research reports and briefs, and then looking at professional learning and modules and units that we were able to develop together that were collaboratively developed in our work. And then looking at our timelines of how did we then do coaching and professional learning with the participants in our own contexts. What were our takeaways and what were our learnings? And these all together form the shared practice that is developing and we hope will continue to develop within this community. So again, to think about those three elements, the domain of what it is that we're all interested in together that brings us together to shared work, our community, what are the ways that we can continue to develop trust, to foster relationships within this group? We want this to be a group where people feel that they're able to bring the issues at hand and get feedback, to get advice and ideas about what's working in different contexts and how we can utilize those. How can research continue to inform the practice that we're doing? And then finally, the practices. So how do we begin to really share practices, learn from each other, and develop this shared repertoire of ways of working with families, with adults, and with young children across our state. So we're really excited to host 4 of these community of practice sessions throughout the course of this extension. And in addition, to engage with you as AIMS coordinators and coaches on a regular basis to hear about your implementation plans, to offer support, and to learn together as we do that through those routine coaching conversations that you can engage in with the AIMS coaches. And again, we'll also be able to highlight some of the additional resources that are available as part of the initiative that our partners have been working diligently to create and to curate. And we're excited about some of those things that can be implemented into our work together as well. So again, just to sort of move forward, we're excited to be together. We're glad that you're all here. And in just a minute, we're going to move into our hands online section. And so we're going to open up 4 breakout sessions. And we're going to open these up now by region. So if you are in the northern region, then you can go to that breakout. If you're in the Central California region, you can go to that breakout. We'll have the Bay Area groups, and then we'll have the Southern California region. So if you remember your region, you'll be working again with the same coach who was part of that region. So if we want to go ahead and open up the breakout groups at this point, and then everyone can select, and we'll make sure everyone gets to the appropriate places that they need to be. To engage in some conversation and to do some reflection opportunity time. So we are going to look at 5 different topics that you will have a choice in engaging in 5 different conversations. And so again, we want to invite you into a breakout session The first would be around coaching. If that's of interest to you, then you can join that session. And then you can see geometry reasoning, scaffolding down the activity, extending the activity, and parent connection take-home kits. So we'd like to provide you a choice of one of these 5 breakout rooms for the next bit to have a conversation. So one of the things that we've been researching is that depending on the version of Zoom that you have downloaded, the choice breakout option is either available or not available to you. So if you do take a look at the bottom of your Zoom, where your Zoom bar is, or wherever your Zoom bar is located, when you look at breakout rooms, there is sometimes an option there that says to join or join a breakout room. And so for those of you who are able to do that, we'll encourage you to just join. Otherwise, if you would use the chat features we just did and just put the first word of the session that you'd like to join, and then we will assign you into that session, and then you can engage in those conversations accordingly. So go ahead and do that either in the chat, or if you are able to see down at the bottom where it says breakout rooms, you'll be able to see a join, and then you can join those once you click on them. And I see that some of you are doing that now, so that's great. The rest of you, if you haven't been able to see that join button above the breakout room, if you would just use the chat feature to let us know which of these sessions interests you. And we wanted to provide some choice in the kind of conversations that go forward, and we will get everyone assigned accordingly. So go ahead and either choose now or put in the chat, and we will get you there accordingly.
As to like how many, circles did you find, kind of adding that piece. Then we talked about also you could create the shape finder, but looking for like numbers around the house, like if they're ready to like start visually finding the numbers in their environment. We also talked about the viewfinder, looking at like colors, like different colors, if you're helping them with that aspect. And I'll stop sharing so someone else can.
Yeah, but a ton of different things that you could, draw out of this activity, having to do with shapes, numbers. You could even change it up and look for colors instead of looking for shapes. You could find a ton of things to focus on. Anyone else thoughts?
Well, I draw back to the age group of a preschooler and maybe even younger, maybe a toddler, but just exploring shapes, just being aware of the fact that there are shapes in their environment to start with.
Right. So that exploration, that awareness around us of geometry concepts, number concepts, shapes, sizes, elements of shapes, all these sorts of things, but that awareness really is one of the big focuses as well, right?
Exactly.
I think another big one is going from seeing it on paper, right? A 2D thing that we're doing to turning it into that 3-dimensional item that they can see, they can find. So I think bringing that to life is different than seeing it in a book or drawn in a picture for them.
Absolutely. Bringing all these things to life. I did hear, Steve, you were about to say something as well. And then Kathy, I just saw unmute and a mute. So I'm going to go to Steve and then we'll jump right to Kathy.
I thought about making a coding game with it, putting the shape that you're looking for on the wall and then having one child hold it and another child give directions on how to get to that shape, like one step forward, one step to the left. So making a coding game out of it.
Oh, how fun is that? Kathy, go ahead.
I was just going to kind of piggyback on what, I'm not sure if it was Crystal or Jenny or someone just said that about it being 3-dimensional, because a lot of the circles in my house are not flat on the wall. They're not up and down. They're like, my table is a circle, and it doesn't necessarily match up to the viewfinder. So I just think it's a lot of opportunity to activate that spatial reasoning. So
absolutely. Dimensionality, all these. So some of the things I just want to kind of gather some of our thoughts around what we might focus on with the shape viewfinder. Just catch me if I miss any, but we had talked about geometry and number and awareness of, all of those things around us. We talked about that dimensionality, seeing things in person and matching them up creates this opportunity for spatial awareness. But the 2-dimension, 3-dimension thing. So all of those kinds of things, vocabulary, just a ton of things, right? And then Steve had even thought of an idea to bring in some coding. I mean, you're really thinking about your body in space, and they can use that to instruct somebody else how to get somewhere and really think about movement in space. So that spatial awareness is another big thing that we can kind of address through this. So, did I miss anything? Anyone was like, you did not mention what I said, and I want to make sure we don't forget. Nope. Did I get them all? Okay. All right. And again, the chat, you can also use that. So if you want to throw things in chat, feel free. Okay. So we wanted to think about that and kind of wrap our mind around what's possible because we're going to go into thinking about how can we scaffold this down, but really still keep those things in mind as our goals, or thinking about if we're thinking about wanting a student that's maybe in preschool or kindergarten to be able to engage with this particular tool, what might be some ways that we could scaffold down this activity for maybe if it's a preschooler that we might even need to scaffold down for, or scaffold down for a toddler or for a baby. What sorts of activities and things can we do? And so I kind of chunked it into 4 different things that we're going to think through. And then at the end, I'll just give you space to throw out other ideas if your idea doesn't land in one of these chunks. But we're going to think about how could we vary the materials we use, or how could we use the materials differently? How could the activity be varied? And then lastly, things to notice and questions to ask, things like that. How can we change that up depending on the age group that we might be thinking about? And so we might be thinking about 0 to 1, 1 to 2, 2 to 3. How might we make some modifications for these age groups? So really quickly, if you can jump onto this link here. And I am afraid that if I make this not, let me know if you do not get this typed in, you need me to put a link into the chat. I was going to copy that before I got in here, but it's doing something funny whenever I jump out of full screen mode. Or I'm gonna have to do that anyway. So let me just jump out really quick. I'm actually gonna stop share and okay, so and that's not, oh, there it is. Okay. And I'll go ahead and put it in the chat for anybody that's not there yet. Okay, so in this Padlet, if you could, as we go, if somebody else is mentioning it and you want to throw it in the Padlet for them, feel free. Or if you have an idea and you want to jot it down, that's fine as well. But we just want to gather our thoughts into this Padlet. All of the other breakouts that are meeting right now are going to be throwing things into their column. So if you can find the scaffolding down column with my name, Brooke, there, you can just press that plus and you can add ideas as we go along. Okay. So the first one that I wanted to ask you about, so let me get back to this and share my screen again. Okay. All right. So the first one is, how can we vary the materials if we're thinking that we might want to do this with younger students? So just thinking about, are they students that are going to be able to cut if they can't, necessarily use scissors yet, or different considerations for those young ones? Thinking about babies, they might not be able to use these materials. What could we do?
I was almost wondering, like, for the students that were really young and aren't able to like cut and use the materials, but if we've like pre-cut them, but maybe they could personalize it in some way of making like little scribbles on it or anything that, they choose to kind of personalize the cardboard or the cardstock or whatever it is. But then I was also thinking, like, for the younger ones, instead of using like the clear like cellophane, maybe having the teacher laminate it, because then you could like wipe it. So, if they do put it in their mouth, then it's not something that will just get full of like slobber and just kind of fall apart.
Definitely. And I'm going to pull this out so I can see both at one time, but hopefully this is still going to be sharing there. Okay. And if you want to throw those into our Padlet and make sure that we don't lose those, at the very end, I am going to be asking someone to kind of share for us. So be thinking about whether you'd like to be that volunteer, but you'll have this Padlet that you can kind of look back on if you need to help you reflect on our thoughts together. Let's see. So I'm seeing somebody threw in an idea, thinking about what other information would be helpful to share with caregivers in order for them to feel comfortable in engaging with their children at home during the activity. Not just a 2-minute activity at home. Was that one of us? Because the other thing that could be happening is it could have been another breakout group. It sounded like it might have to do with the kids. So I figured, and I'm going to do this. I'm just going to add them all. That way we can kind of just talk about anything that comes to you. Doesn't even have to be in one of these categories. But what are you thinking? How else could we vary?
I was just going to say, I that was the first thing that came to my mind too, as far as scaffolding it is have a certain amount of it prepped already. But I'm thinking the older preschoolers and for sure kindergartners could, if it was pre-cut, they could tape it. And then I think that there's a lot of value in letting them, like you were saying, be able to decorate it because they love that. And then they have ownership of it and they get more excited about it. And I loved the idea of laminating. I didn't even think of that because then you could clean it too. And that would be nice.
Yeah, that is a really great idea. Jenny, did you put that into our Padlet, your idea about that as well? And then Kathy, if you could add that in. Is everybody seeing where they can add in just pressing that plus button that's right underneath the last comment in the scaffolding down column? I'm seeing something come in. Great. What other thoughts might you have? Is there a way we could use these differently with younger children? So I'm thinking about that challenge of, taking your viewfinder and really trying to match it to the shape. Is every child at every age going to be able to really, really make it match? So for those kids that can't do that part, what could we do?
I was thinking about ahead of time, maybe even having like kind of remind me with those shapes that you have right there in your picture, but just having shapes out and kind of a pre-activity to searching. It's given the opportunity to see a shape and match it to the viewfinder itself, kind of a matching game.
Right. So that might be a way to even kind of like open up to the idea. What are we actually doing when we're walking around? Having those shapes. That's a good idea.
I was thinking that for the younger students, what we could do is have them start off with like something easier, like colors. And and have them go and match different colors, like, like around the room or around their house, wherever they're at, their environment. And then from there, build on it, maybe doing the matching game, like they just mentioned.
That's a really great idea. I mean, there's so many ways you could use this: colors, letters, anything really that you are hoping that they'll be able to explore and see in their environment. But colors are a great one. I think kids are drawn to colors, and it might open up that idea of looking for something through this finder.
So Jessica, off of what you were saying in regards to color, I just thought of the idea of using, those dividers, those clear plastic dividers from like the Dollar Tree. They're already in a color, but they're kind of see-through. And so, if we're making them for the younger kiddos, then we can cut that out and put that there. So it's already that shade of color, or turning them other colors. I don't know, just a thought from what you were saying.
Great idea. Other materials, I don't know if it was mentioned in all the breakouts, but you can also just use like a Ziploc bag. And then you can use an Expo pen rather than a Sharpie, so that you can change it up into something else, and just quickly switch what you're looking for. But yeah, definitely there's all sorts of materials that'll make it easier to modify this quickly for the students and make it easier for them to engage. Jenny, I thought a moment ago I saw the mute, unmute. Did you have another thought?
Yeah, no, I was just going to kind of add to what I think it was Jerry that kind of added. But I was even thinking about like the teachers that I'm currently coaching, but that are doing students like on virtual distance learning. But I know they have like a color of the week or a letter of the week, but really using it over the course of like a whole school year. And that could be like a scavenger hunt that they do with their parents, kind of an interactive activity that based on whatever objective that, whatever letter, number, color, shape, whatever it is that they're doing for the week, that can be a very interactive activity that they could do. They could take it to the grocery store. They could take it wherever they're going with the parents on a walk, but just make it very interactive, and they could use it like throughout the school year. And if it breaks or something, it's very easily the parents and the child can make another one, or they could even make, a different one for the different seasons if they wanted. It just kind of depends on, how they use it. But I just thought, oh, what a great way to kind of make it an interactive activity for parents and students to get to doing activities together. And it's not anything that like costs them money. So.
Yeah, for sure. All sorts of different times and places that it can be used, and that family engagement is definitely a fun one. And then one other question I wanted to ask, because it's often one of those groups that we forget to talk and discuss, but what about that 0 to 1 age group? Just reflecting back on what we said were kind of some of the outcomes or things, whether it's shapes, spatial reasoning, all those things that we can focus on. What could we do with babies? That's kind of within that realm of concepts, I should say.
Well, they're just kind of exploring with their bodies. So, something that they could hold on to and explore. I don't really know what. I'm trying to think.
Yeah, so they're really in this exploration. Jessica, go ahead.
I was going to mention, I know that one of the activities that you could do with them, since they're really like touching and like, like grasping, is use a shape viewfinder, but I used mine inside of a Ziploc. So then maybe if you were to like laminate it like laminate tag board, you could use it, and then maybe you could fill it up with like some kind of like I don't know, like some kind of like gel or something you could seal it with, and then they could just like explore. You could probably put even like maybe I purchased before, they're like collage materials, but they're a little bit harder. They're not paper. And you could put those in there, and you could put like the different shapes in there, and then they could just explore with that.
Yeah, because it really is about exploration for them, right? And just opportunity to see things and so on. So that's a way to actually get them that tactile experience with some sort of a shape viewfinder type of object. We also could just bring shapes into their view, right? So, using blocks and things and putting that within their view and allowing them to see and touch and feel that tactile experience that you're mentioning. Any other thoughts?
Kind of to add on to what you're just sharing, Brooke, I was thinking, so if you laminate it and it's a little bit thicker, and if you have a baby that's maybe like 6 or 7 months that can actually hold it, but if you're reading a book, so they see it in a book, you can use the viewfinder so they can see it in a book, but then you actually have that object to where then they can physically like see. So then you can kind of compare like, oh, this is, the circle that was in the book and it was red, and now I have a ball, and, it just to kind of, so they start comparing and being able to explore. So you're seeing it a book, but then you could also have the visuals, that the hands-on tactile materials that they could use. And I was just thinking, even for like preschool age, but like children with special needs, you could use it in that form as well.
Yeah, definitely. Great ideas. I'm noticing that some of the most recent mentioned ideas haven't been put in the Padlet. Could I ask you guys to throw your wonderful ideas in there so we can capture them, and then this can be shared with you all, and you'll have all of these different ideas, not only from our group, from the rest of groups as well. So especially for those people that aren't able to have this conversation with us, they can look at all your great thoughts and get ideas from you. All right. Any other ideas? Feel free to jump in and share. I'm going to go ahead and ask for that volunteer. If anyone is willing to do the recap for our group and just share with everyone else, just kind of a quick little share out of what we discussed during this time together. Jenny, you will?
Yeah, if nobody else wants to, I don't mind.
Okay, great. Wonderful. We have our volunteer. Don't you just love little kiddos, little babies? They're just so cute. Okay, so we've got a couple minutes before they're going to pull us out. So feel free to share anything else that pops up for you. Bev was mentioning with babies, how they're just, especially like the really little ones, but how they're really starting to differentiate faces and things like that. And she was mentioning just kind of like tracing, shapes with your fingers as they look at them, and just kind of tracing and that sort of thing. Thanks for adding these things. I'm seeing some more things pop up.
So now, Brooke, off of what you just said, the tracing thing, I was thinking if we could even use like a pipe cleaner and glue it like around or on the shape so that they can actually have it to touch and see as well.
Right. There's so many ideas, that tactile need that they have when they're younger. These are great. Please get them into our Padlet. You guys are coming up with some really great ideas. Okay. So we're going to head out. And Jenny, thank you so much for volunteering to share all these wonderful ideas with everyone. See you all later. Hello, everyone. Hi again, Kathy.
I'm with you every time today. It's so
I
cool.
know. Are you tired of seeing in my face? I think all three of us, Steve and Kathy, we've all been together, everyone, huh?
Yep.
And hello, Danielle.
Hello.
Sophie and Maria and Sherry. My mom's name is Cherie, and she gets very upset when people call her Sherry, so I get a little tentative when I attempt to pronounce similar names.
No, it is Sherry.
Okay, perfect. Well, I'm not really here to lead the conversation. We're just here, and it is here for everybody to think and explore together. Got the Jamboards going. Let's see. But I also can, if you'd like. Okay. Has everybody used a Jamboard before? No? Okay, so were you able to see what Paul was sharing, how to make a sticky and all that? Okay, and we're just doing one per group, right? I mean, one per question. So first question, what are some ways as organizations we are supporting our previous participants while expanding the reach to new stakeholders?
I can start if you want. So our the groups that we worked with last year were they're part of our we call it Steps to Quality in our county, but it's part of the Quality Counts California. So we still have. I'm their coach for that as well. So I still have, you know, I still have regular communication with them, and so I can, you know, still support them. And then we're bringing on new, in the spring, we're going to do another virtual cohort. So I'm looking forward to that.
Nice. So you really truly do have both continuing. Does anybody else have a similar situation where there's still a connection in some way with prior participants, but are also working with new people?
Yes, as you know, me and Daniel are still working together, and Daniel is still working with his participants, and I'm the one reaching out to new participants. So we've kind of divided it up that way.
Almost two components now, continuing and then also new. Are there any other thoughts on this, or is that kind of sum up that there's still this connection with old, whether it's through different avenues? As Kathy was saying, you really were connected in another way, so you're still connected with them, but your work as far as the grant goes is a new thing. And then Steve, you guys have kind of broken it up. Anything else to add to that, or are we ready for a sticky?
Yeah, well, I'm sorry, I'm new and I'm just jumping into the meeting right now at this point. And my teammates, Belia Soto and Irene Jefferson, they had another one, but she's not with them anymore. So I'm just joining up. But we didn't receive the same funding as last year. So I don't think we're going to be going as large a scale as last year.
Gotcha. Are you going to be continuing with your with who you worked with last year, or is
Yes, yes, that's the plan. But then if we offer a workshop, it'll be open to more providers.
okay? So it's kind of just like opening it up to others as you continue on with the group you worked with already.
Right. Yeah.
Did you get access to the Jamboard?
Yeah, I have access.
Okay, I wanted to make sure. You said you just came in, and I wanted to make sure that you were there for that sharing. And
Oh, okay. Yeah. Thanks.
anyone else? Does somebody want to kind of gather our thoughts into a sticky note?
I don't know. Should we say some of us are still working with the prior participants and I don't know, how can we put it? And we're I'm trying to say we're like putting it together. We're still, because like Steve, you said you don't have your groups yet. You're still reaching out. I know who I'm working with, but I just don't know what I'm doing yet with them. So
Yeah, before we just did our state preschools, and I work on the childcare side of it, so the in-home childcares, and so I'm incorporating math into other workshops that I'm doing with the in-home providers. So since I don't have funding to do just complete math trainings, I'm kind of working with funding from a literacy program and doing books on mathematics. And so kind of sneaking it in that way, trying to get some of the activities funded and stuff. So that's one way we are trying to keep it going. And then Daniel, who worked with me last year, he's a site supervisor. So he's still being coached by Brooke and also his staff. So they're going to keep doing it at their site. So. So I don't know how to sum that up.
I know. I don't
know. Kind of varied.
Yeah.
Or should we just say that we have varied
yeah.
We still have connections with our prior participants, and we have varied outreach.
Invitations almost?
Yeah. Wait, what did you say?
Varied invitations to newcomers.
Invitations to new participants.
Mm-hmm.
Varied, I think it's late in the afternoon. I can't.
I know. I'm trying. I can't think of how to word it either.
I've been in a lot of Zoom meetings today too. It's about that time.
Fatigue is real.
Okay, we have various. I want to say ideas, but it's like another various.
Maybe we could even do like a bulleted list. Go ahead.
Various plans and ideas for
right. Yeah.
For future. I don't know.
Because now that I'm reading the question, what are some ways as organizations we are supporting our previous participants while expanding the reach to new stakeholders? I almost feel like
creative with funding. That kind of answers the creative funding. That's one of the answering the
using creative funding.
Yeah. And then I heard in multiple different ways, like utilizing other programs.
Yeah, utilizing.
Kathy had mentioned it. You mentioned it. And then from Danielle, I really heard like continuing, but an invitation to others to just kind of join in. I saw
for a workshop, not necessarily for coaching, but for like a training.
Yeah, training.
So like open invite for workshops.
Yeah.
All right, should we go to the next one?
Yeah, this is the one I'm curious about if anybody has input, because this is what I'm going to be doing.
That's the next one.
Virtual learning.
What best practices for virtual distance learning can we share, both for educators and children?
I have all of my good ideas come from these COPs, honestly, for because I'm not doing any real virtual education. I'm connecting, I'm coaching virtually, but I'm not doing professional development activities and things. And I'm going to be doing that in the spring with my next cohort. And like I said, all the hands-on stuff, good ideas like the one we did today. I'm definitely going to use that one. But otherwise, I don't have other ideas.
Well, one thing is to keep them short, right? Keep the training short.
Or take breaks, or keep it like, I think varied, like hands-on, like we do here. I think this is a really good example of how to do it the way these COPs work, because there's breakout room, there's just a lot happening in that 3 hours. There's breakout rooms, there's hands-on activities, a lot of sharing, and then we come back into whole group, and then, yeah.
Is anybody jotting this down on a sticky as we go? Or should I start writing some? Because I'm like hearing them.
You seem like the one that has like your words more, I don't know, right there than I do.
Oh my goodness. I can't. Do you guys have access? I don't have access to, it says I'm a view only participant. Oh, I'm not allowed, guys. Paul has said, I cannot write stickies. That's what happened. I can tell.
Oh, he knew we were going to do that, didn't he?
He probably did. That's funny.
I can't write on it either. I'm view only.
Oh, yeah, mine says view only also.
I think I can. So what were we saying? What were the tips so far?
Okay. So I heard keep it short, varied.
A practice run through. Make sure you get a practice in.
That's a really good one.
I'm sure you guys practice beforehand.
Yes, we practiced beforehand, and that has helped. I don't know how many times.
Yeah.
There was another one in the beginning.
Activities, hands-on activities.
Yes, hands-on activities. One thing I was going to add to that when you were talking about activities and talking about how you get the ideas from the COPs, I thought I'd share even how we come up with those.
Yeah.
And just thinking about things that we would do in person, and then we kind of virtualize them. So it's not necessarily thinking about, okay, what's a virtual activity I can do, but just taking, oh, here's a really cool activity. Is there a way that we can modify that activity to be able to do it virtually? So that's kind of the way that we approach that.
Okay.
Yeah. So we could write, that'd be a good thing to write too.
That also makes me think about the materials. We always have to reflect on like materials that people would have handy in different places, whether it's work, home, whatever.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then you always send that out in advance too, so that people can be prepared.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. So a list of things they should have ready.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to add interactive and engaging activities, because not all activities are as good as others.
True. Very true. Somebody had said integrating breaks. That was one of the things that I remember from the beginning that I forgot.
Yeah, I think that's something that some of my coworkers learned along the way, is that they needed to integrate more breaks. And I think you kind of learn, maybe we learned that from being participants. When you're the participant, you're like, I could really use a break right now. I should probably give breaks when I'm hosting it. So anyway.
What about children? So a lot of these, well, I think they could apply to both, but is there anything particular to children?
I haven't done any.
Uh-oh, did we lose? Kathy? We did, huh?
Yeah, we lost her.
Yeah, hopefully she'll be able to find her way back in, because she said this was the one she was most, but it looks like we're almost done with this one.
Mm-hmm.
Any other thoughts?
It's also good to have extra staff just to do the technical part. If you're the presenter, to have extra staff for the technical portion.
That even reminds me of something that we've kind of come across quite a bit, is the value of having somebody with you that as you're presenting, they can kind of watch the chat and help that timing and the engagement in different ways.
Yeah. Co-hosting really helps.
Definitely.
Okay. How much time do we have left? Do you know?
We have, I think, almost 19 minutes. So
okay.
Let me double check on the agenda and make sure I'm not making that up. Yeah, we do.
Okay.
So should we go to the next one? Are we ready?
Okay.
Okay. How are we enhancing family engagement with mathematics throughout these uncertain times and beyond?
So one of the ways that we engaged families so far is we ordered a bunch of materials from Kodo Kids, it's called. We ordered these kits from them, and we had a drive-through. We distributed them first to our different sites, our different preschools, and then we had parents do drive-through, and they picked up the materials, and then the teachers made training videos on how to use the materials for the parents to access. So we provided them with a lot of stuff they can use, and preschools are doing, we're doing it virtually. And so the parents who could join in. So that was one of the ways, was doing virtual preschool.
Okay.
Yeah, even, I mean, you brought out quite a few things just in explaining that, like the drive-through distribution. There's so many people doing things like that, and the opportunities that that gives us. And then also the videos, sharing through videos.
Yeah, we use our existing platform that we have for Learning Genie for doing desired results or our assessments, which already has a parent component built in where we can send videos and stuff to the parents, and there's already a library of training videos on there. And so we actually made sorry about that. We made a math channel, and so the parents were actually able to get the videos through the private math channel we made.
almost finding like, or the resources that we've had available to us for so long are becoming even more and more important now.
Which resources through this this program, or just your agency's resources?
We use Learning Genie. It's what we use for doing all of our assessments and reporting it to the,
Okay.
so, and it has a parent component that's extra money, but we use it a lot. We also use it as our emergency notification for parents. So they're strongly encouraged at the very beginning when they first enroll to sign up for it. And so that's a way for us to send out educational stuff and newsletters and stuff like that too. So.
Okay.
But there's also, they can get in there. I can prescribe videos, training videos to go out at a certain time of day, a week. And so, and then number them and they'll go out automatically whenever. So let's say I want them to go out every Wednesday and Thursday. They'll go out Wednesday and Thursday at whatever time I put and in what order I want. So it's got a lot of neat features to it.
Okay.
One thing we've been doing at Ames with elementary school that we work with, and then we're starting in January with the Head Start that we're working with, and early Head Start. But we're doing take-home kits for the kids. And that's been interesting and fun, and we've learned a ton. And but yeah, we've really worked out a lot of kinks with that, and so that's been going really well. But just things for parents to engage with their children, and different ideas, along with some materials and things to work with and create with.
Anything else on that? No? Should we go to the next one then?
Yeah.
Okay. We're at number 4 now.
We've got about 13 minutes left. So a couple more questions.
Oh, number 5 is empty.
Oh, is it? Okay. So there's just, but I thought when I saw that, I was like, I thought he said 4.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What are some additional questions we can explore together in CAEMI 2020-21? Is there anything that's come up, like whether it be challenges or just things, even if it has to do with just because of the virus and the shutdowns and all those things that are particular to the shifts we're having to make, anything that's come up as just a challenge lately. Yay, Kathy, you're back.
Hi. Sorry about that.
No, I'm glad you made it back.
My computer plugged in and it just died. So
we're on the last question. What are some additional questions we can explore together this year? And so we had a really long pause, think time, and then like, I don't know, nothing's coming out. So I just posed the question. I don't know. Are there any challenges or anything that haven't come up in the other questions that might be coming up, even if it's particular to just, our current way of being with the virus and everything could be focused to that. But just anything that has come up as a challenge lately that could lead to some exploration together.
Uh-huh.
One thing I could think of, people are mentioning distributions, but now even our agencies are starting to get a little cautious about distributions too, because they said somebody that came and got something later had COVID, and did we expose ourselves? And
Yeah.
So that might almost be like a question of how can we continue to, because that's really that access issue, right? Like that we currently face, we've already faced, it's already been something that's created challenges in education, but now in just such an added way. So maybe just continuing to think about access together.
Are you talking about like if like providing like math materials specifically when you're talking about distributions, or other things?
Well, in this context, it would be the math materials. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true, because that's what I was hoping to do is have some materials for them. And I was going to drop them off and then do the training virtually. So yeah. I don't know.
At our agency, we're talking about even maybe trying to figure out some mail thing, like get some kind of deal with postage or free mailing, free shipping, just to go directly to the parent's house, things like that.
Yeah, I suppose you could do like a drive-by pickup. I know some of the schools around here are doing that, but then again, access, maybe people don't have a car or, yeah.
Right. So that's one thing. And then the other thing would be, to me, something other platforms besides Zoom, because even some people have trouble still getting onto Zoom. It's not user friendly for them, if they're not used to it. So
that's one thing that's come up for me this year is having different people that I'm working with using different platforms, whether it's Teams or Zoom or whatever. So then sometimes it almost becomes like, do I need to become an expert at all the different types of tech? And then it just, which I know that that's how teachers feel too, because there's just so many things coming at them.
Right. We wanted to have a workshop with this man. We've had workshops before from Fish and Wildlife. And we used to go on field trips. Now we can't because he's not allowed to do that. And then he can't use Zoom. His government doesn't let him use Zoom on his government computer. And we can't invite other people to use Teams, outside people to use Teams. So it's like, what do we use? It's hard to figure it out. So.
Yeah.
And also personally, I'm getting tired of being on the computer all day. It's like, is there some other way I can do my work without having to be on the computer?
That's a really good question to explore. Yeah.
Yeah. So I missed one of the questions. What was it that you talked about right before this?
So it was, how are we enhancing family engagement with mathematics throughout these uncertain times and beyond?
Okay. What did our Post-it say?
Well, there were several post-its, but one of them was saying that, so who was it that Steve has said that they're using Learning Genie.
Mm-hmm.
So they use it for videos, and there's parent component. They made a math channel for parents, and he also uses it to schedule like assignments or activities.
That's awesome. I know a lot of our people are using that too.
And then we had take-home kits for kids in Head Start and Early Head Start, so parents have materials and ideas to use for child engagement.
That's great.
Mm-hmm. And then ordered kits and distributed them at sites and at a drive-through for parents. And then they have a virtual preschool.
Yeah, we've got all those things going on too. I mean, different in our county, all that's going on. So,
did you have anything to add to that?
No, the only thing that I've just gotten some feedback from teachers that they know the parents, the teachers that are doing distance learning, they've just gotten to know the parents a lot better than they did before. So that's kind of been a little silver lining, is that they just get to interact with the parents a lot more and feel like they know them better. So, but yeah.
I think there's definitely some opportunity that's come up for sure. In that, just, I mean, these ideas don't have to go away, even if there is a return to classroom instruction, like these videos that are being created, these family engagement activities that are shared through kits, through videos, through things like the Learning Genie, things like that.
Yeah. Oh, and we do a newsletter too. We started doing a newsletter that has a section for families that has different like resources like articles or and then always some activities to do at home too. We do that once a month. So.
So we've got about 2 minutes before they're going to bring us back.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what other people came up with for that last one. That's a hard one right now. And I don't know. It's hard to even think too far ahead the way the world is right now, I think.
Kathy, we really didn't add anything to that question after you're gone, I don't think. Because I know when we got to that question, you said, I was really interested to hear this one because I really, wanted best practices for virtual distance learning.
Yeah.
So I don't think you missed anything. But it will be good to have the whole Jamboard that you can look at even the other groups too.
Yeah, that's what I'm curious about. That I liked the ideas that came up though in that, just about, it's just nice to think through that kind of stuff with other people. So I appreciate that.
Okay, so for this one, all I typed so far for what are some additional questions we can explore together. How to provide access to materials when distributions are problematic. How can we, and what are other platforms to use besides Zoom? How can we do our work outside of using a computer or device? I don't know if you guys want those questions or you want some other questions. I'm new here, so I'm really not sure what to say.
Those are great.
Yeah, no, you did a great gathering those.
Oh, okay.
Those were good. It's so funny. Distribution has been a constant. Oh, I don't even know how to put it, but just one of those things that's like this constant kind of tweaking and trying to get feedback. And we've been working on those kits, like I said. So like distribution, it's just this big question of what's the best way, to do that. Teachers are always worried about, using them when all students don't have them and don't have access and that sort of thing. So it's so important that distribution goes well and the kids really do get materials. All right. Well, thanks everyone. That was good.
Thank you. Yeah.
See y'all in there.
All right.
So someone else, maybe we've been talking about different activities and maybe simple material, whether it's measuring tape or patterns on clothing. But have you been able to get any feedback as well? I mean, that's kind of part of that cycle, right? Where we want to, through teachers, through parents, through maybe as we're observing, what's the feedback that we're getting that shows that something's working or maybe something needed an adaptation?
I think for my families, like a lot of times when I talk to them about ways they can do math and everyday things, they realize just, I think, how easy it is sometimes and how they can like extend a lot of games by just adding different elements to it. So if you're already playing outside, we're adding more of like, okay, now we're talking about the shapes that we see, or even to, I encouraged all my families, like as the leaves started to change, talking about the different colors and what other changes are we noticing, like the weather's getting cooler. And so they just notice like now instead of just like a walk around the neighborhood, it's like a learning thing and their kids are engaged and they're not like, oh, I'm tired, I want to go home, because now there's something to do. And it just takes an extra couple seconds.
Sure. And it doesn't have to be formal, right? I think sometimes even in classrooms, we're used to something that maybe is a little more structured, but there's so much learning that happens in the conversations, like you're going for a walk. I don't know about you guys, but if you are also working from home and staying in your walls 24/7, a walk around the block does great for the mind and the body. Like, and there's some real, just being able to just see something different and pay attention, like paying attention to our senses. What can we feel? What can we see? What can we hear? So it sounds like some conversation feedback. Has anyone had any kind of surveys or maybe pictures or videos where people have shared the different math activities that they've done?
For us, we have parents that share videos and pictures on Class Dojo. So we get to see what is going on outside of the four walls of Zoom. And that is a good conversation. I also supports with students' assessment, knowing actually where they are and what they are able to do.
Awesome. I know that kids love to share video or pictures, and that can be a great way to just gather some feedback on what's working and what are people excited about. Maybe you have your own social media platform that you use, whether Class Dojo or something else. Anyone else on just feedback from either parents or teachers? So I'm putting in the chat right now just a very simple Google Doc that you can make a copy of and use if it's helpful for you. It's just a simple graphic organizer. As we were thinking about take-home kits, these were just some categories that we thought about. I know that any of your coaches would be excited to support you in any way that you would find beneficial as well, if that's something that you were thinking about, or even just maybe that parent connection where, like, Selena, did I say your name correctly? Okay. Selena had mentioned that sometimes just a conversation about, well, what are you already doing with your child? Now let's talk about what math was happening right there that, we can just draw some attention to. Is that communicated well through a post on Class Dojo? Maybe it's a letter, maybe it's a picture. There's just so many different options. And one of the hopes that we have for this community of practice is to be that space where we can kind of share what's going well, what didn't work, and continue to be that collaboration. Has anyone had a chance to get on the Padlet? I'm on my other screen. If you have a chance to go on that Padlet and maybe throw some, oh, I see some things. Okay, raw spaghetti with shapes. Well, that sounds like fun. Making parents already aware that they're already teaching math. Items around the house that can be used for counting and sorting. I think sometimes, whether it's parents or kids, just getting an idea, like we need to be inspired. Sometimes I feel like my head becomes a blank slate when someone asks me a question. But when I see what someone else is doing, then I can tweak it, adjust it, see what I have, and so on. So what we're going to do next is we're going to kind of come together as a whole group. So do I have a volunteer that would be willing to share some of the things that we have talked about today? Any brave volunteer? You can even just read the Padlet and what was said.
I'll volunteer.
Oh, thank you, Obiama. I appreciate that. Well, we are done a little bit early. I'm going to stick around, and if you have any questions for me, I'm happy to answer any questions, but feel free. We are starting our next piece at 2:30, so that's in about 6 minutes. And that's when we'll do a whole group share out and listen to what some of the other conversations were about as well. So you can either leave the breakout room or you can just stay here until it gets closer to 2:30 and then jump on over to the main session as well. So thank you for everyone for participating, whether on the Padlet or in the chat or just in conversation. So we are definitely better together than we are on our own. So we just appreciate everyone's participation.
So just so you're aware, the whole session's being recorded. I mean, the whole COP is being recorded. So I'm recording our little breakout. I think we'll wait like one more minute and then we'll start with whoever is here. Let's see, Michelle, thanks for joining us. And we have Imelda from LA. Hi, Imelda. And let's see, Cecily, am I saying your name right? All right, and Cecily, where are you from? Oh, Cecily's from the land of non-working microphones. Okay. Calusa. All right. Well, welcome. And we have Gregoria and Mariah also. And if you guys want to maybe just throw in the chat where you're from, I always like just knowing where everybody's at and what far geography we're reaching out to. Of course, I'm in the middle of California's belly button right here in the Central Valley. Oh, Mariah's from Fresno. Awesome. So we're experiencing similar weather today. And oh, Gregory from Sanger. Yay, right down my road. I'm out in Kingsburg. So just a little bit to the south. Michelle's from Alameda, up in the Bay Area. All right. Michelle, did your son play with the shape finder?
Yeah, he did. We found a few things together,
Awesome.
but we weren't able to find the right triangle piece. We made it fit certain corners, but not something that fit perfectly inside the right triangle.
Okay. So you actually used it almost more like a right angle finder, which is certainly an extension. And one of the things we'll be talking about in the next 25 minutes. Yeah. Awesome. Well, why don't we go ahead and jump in and get started. So this is a session we'll talk about how to take this shape finder idea, and I hope everybody got a chance to both make one and play with one a little bit and kind of get the idea. But how can we take that then and share that or extend that a little bit and move away from that, using that as a base, maybe a jumping off point. And I'm not sure what everybody's, in fact, let's just maybe throw in the chat really quickly. What age group generally are you working with? Knowing that, not everybody's a classroom teacher, but maybe you're a coach or an administrator of some kind. And so what age group do you work with? And somebody's already tried the bit.ly link and it says needs permission. So let me double check that. And I thought I made it usable for everybody. If somebody sees something I need to click, because sometimes if I'm looking in a hurry, I'll go right over it. I thought there was one that said it had to be inside the aims, but I don't see that anywhere.
Maybe it might help if you try dropping the link in the chat, because I think I just typed it in and maybe
that's
had an error on my behalf.
That's a good idea. In fact, I won't even use the fancy bit.ly link. I'll just use the for real deal. All right, yeah, so that link's in the chat. Let's see if that works. Thank you, Michelle, good idea. Did that work better? Yay. All right, good. Thank you. Thank you. All right, so we've got somebody who works with just site supervisor, 3 to 5 year olds, program admin, infants. Good. So good. We got a real good 4 and 5 years, good variety of different ages. Perfect. And so as we move along here, if you have that Padlet open, and I think you're seeing it on the screen now, this is a Padlet that all the groups are going to be using. So you'll notice right here, the next to the last column says extending the activity, and that's with Scott. And so we're going to add things in this column. And as we move through our time here, we'll probably see other people adding things in their column. And there's 3 questions we're going to focus around, and I'll show those in just a minute. I don't know if you've used Padlet before, but to add something to this column, you just click this plus sign, and you can add a link, you can add a picture. If you want to take a picture of something we're doing, you can add a comment. You can really add just about anything. You can even, put a voice recording or a file of some kind. So feel free to do that as we go through. And also just want to make sure you know that this isn't going to be Scott telling you all of his expertise, but just us conversing around some questions and sharing some ideas about how we can extend this into different areas. I have some ideas that I can share as maybe idea starters, but let's pull our collective expertise, our backgrounds, and our own creativity and share together, okay? So the first question is, let's just think about this. Knowing that we want to highlight math in everybody's world, not just their home, although, for the last 9 months, it's been primarily our homes, but where might a child take the viewfinder? So if a kid has made this viewfinder, where can you see a child walking around looking for different geometric shapes? And if you want to just unmute, or if you want to throw in the chat, that's fine.
They can take them outdoors, like outside, right where they have a yard, or they go on a nature walk with their parents.
Okay. Yeah.
Or
parks. Everywhere. Yeah, absolutely. Right. I kind of picture, what if instead of while riding in the car, a kid is staring at their phone? What if they were looking out the window with their viewfinder and actually engaging their mind that way instead of just watching videos on a phone? Because I know a lot of, I didn't used to do that when we didn't have phones when my kids were little, but I know a lot of parents do that. Any other places, other thoughts? And again, while we're doing this, if you say something, I'll task you with putting it in the Padlet. All right. So we're going to kind of have I don't want to say anybody is our secretary or our note taker. So any idea you share, you're also responsible for throwing it in the Padlet. Did somebody else have an idea they had shared? Oh,
I was going to say
store.
grocery store.
Yeah, grocery store. Love it. In my mind's eye, I'm kind of like, everything's in a cardboard box. It's just all rectangles. But then you get to the fruit, and a lot of packaging is really creative. Wheels on carts are round, baskets, lots of different shapes, huh? Okay. How about this? What are some other things that children could look for with a viewfinder? So what if we took the shape idea and said, all right, we can look for shapes, but what other things could a kid look like if you just challenged them? All right, what if you found what? Fill in that blank. And here's an idea starter. And what if we said, go find groups of 3. Go find things that are in groups of 3. And send them out looking for numbers like that. What are some other things you can maybe think of?
Maybe colors.
Yeah, go find red stuff. Go find blue stuff. Oh, textures. Yeah. Wow. Hadn't even thought of that. Go find things that are smooth. Go find things that are like glassy. Go find things that are water. Oh, different sizes. Good idea. Ooh, insects and flowers. Sure. Different animals. Go find dogs, but be careful. Different sizes. I like that one. And it's, you know, what's really intriguing about that size one is, you know, when we have our viewfinder, I don't know, there used to be this really goofy show on TV called Kids in the Hall. And one of the things they did that was kind of funny is they would, and I don't know, I used to do this when I was a kid too, where you look at somebody and you look at them through their fingers and you kind of like squish their little head, right? So those things actually might not be very small, but it's really interesting that looking at something through something else really changes the perspective on size, doesn't it? I mean, I could be walking in downtown in a big city and see a big skyscraper and fit it inside my inside my viewfinder. So it's an interesting idea of size and what different sizes are. What about kind of thinking on that too? What if we did, or what if you had a kid do, you know, comparative? Go find things that are bigger than you. Go find things that are smaller than you. Go find things that are, you know, or location and spatial reasoning. Go find things that are above you. Go find things that are below you. So you could bring in spatial into that. All right. Now I'm going to real quick check on the Padlet. Are these ideas all getting in the Padlet? Uh-oh, we got some note-taking catching up to do. So I'll throw some ideas in here.
I kind of said the same thing.
Oh, there they are. Oh, I just had to refresh. I'm sorry. We're doing great. We're doing great. Yeah. In fact, you know what? How about this? Let's just stop using the chat. Let's just start using the Padlet.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, nice. Okay. Super. I'm gonna add this one in about. Yeah, let's see, do we get colors in there? I'm gonna add colors. And let's see, there's something else that we said. Oh, of course, counting collections. All right. Super. Okay. So how about, I won't bother with redoing that. Yeah, how about this? Now that we've taken our viewfinder and we've gone out into the world or around our homes or to the park or to the grocery store, and now that we're looking for different kinds of things, like colors, numbers of things, different animals or insects, all those things we mentioned. So now what types of things could be done? So now kids have all this data, right? Now maybe even how could we bring in art? How could we bring in some science? How could we bring in some language arts, some writing? What are some things that students or children could do with some of that data? What do you think? Yeah, write a story. Tell me about what you saw. Awesome. Yeah, kids could keep a journal, couldn't they? Ooh, create a mural. I love it. Here's all our red things. Here's all our blue things. Here's all our groups of 5. Very good. Wonder if there's some kind of games they could play. What if you sent kids out almost like on a hide and seek or a scavenger hunt? Or find what I'm thinking and give them clues. Like, I'm thinking of something that's blue and round and lays on the ground. I don't even know what I'm thinking about. I'm just throwing out random clues. I don't even know what that would be. And then send them out and go, okay, go find it. And who knows, maybe they might find more than one thing that fits the clues. That could be kind of a fun thing to do. Yeah, I spy. Find one another's objects, and kids could give the clues, right? I like that. They could write the clues. So you guys are way more creative than me. We're all super creative together. What about a vocabulary list? Could kids, based on their viewfinder, start a vocabulary list and a vocabulary builder? And, so here's how we write square. Now let's go find squares. Here's how we write triangle. Let's go find triangles. That's good. Super. Any other ideas? So I'm going to give everybody a quick challenge. Just want to see if this will work. Because this is actually harder than it sounds. I don't know if anybody tried it. There's one thing to, and I'm going to grab my other one because it holds a little better. It's one thing to find, like this is my triangle one, to find a triangle and line my eye up with it. Have you tried taking a picture yet with your phone? Now you've got to actually line up 3 things, the shape, the viewfinder, and your camera, and actually for your eye, and get it all lined up. Can I have a brave soul try to take a picture of something in their viewfinder, their shape finder, Or maybe just take the shape off and like the picture of the how many. And can you throw that in the Padlet? All right. So I saw Cassie taking a picture. See if Cassie can get it into the Padlet. I bet you can. Probably a lot easier than I can. While Cassie's doing that.
In my email.
I'm sorry, Cassie, what'd you say?
I said it's taking a long time to send it to my email.
Yeah.
Of course, I did it on my phone and I have my computer up, so.
Right. Yeah. Okay, so while that's happening, nobody panic, because some people panic when they hear these things. But we need a volunteer, okay? And our volunteer is going to just do a quick report out on our Padlet. Just talk a little bit about what we talked about, the ideas that we shared, and it's not going to be me. So is there somebody who would like to volunteer to just kind of talk people through the Padlet a little bit and share out with the group? Just a couple minutes. It's not, you don't have to make a half-hour speech or anything. Anybody willing to do that? Okay, somebody's about to get voluntold. Anyone?
I can do it.
Was
of course,
that
I can't
Cassie?
get this picture and it's updating. Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right, Cassie, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
It's wanting to start my camera on my phone.
Oh, wow.
When I tried to upload the picture, so I don't know. Maybe I can't do that part.
Okay. I was hoping this cute little baby, because when I watch him, I actually want to raise my hand with him. So I was hoping I was going to force somebody to raise their hand like, hey.
Oh, there it goes.
All right.
It's not a very clear picture because I used the plastic bag, so.
That's okay. That's all right. We'll take our wins where we get them. Oh, look at that. Awesome. Yeah, that's good. Good, good. Okay, so Cassie's going to share out for us. Thank you, Cassie. Any other just final ideas, thoughts, comments, questions, something you're wondering?
My only thought when I made mine, I guess just thinking about the whole title, extending the activity, instead of writing the shape or the name of the shape, I wrote what shape is it? And then kind of put a legend at the bottom, and then they could go around and try and, obviously a higher level thinker, but they could go around and say, oh, there's a triangle. Oh, there's a circle, and.
So more open-ended. Way more open-ended.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. And that's kind of similar to this. How many? It doesn't say 7, right? Yeah, no, great idea. I like that. Very good. And I like, Cassie, hold yours up again, because I noticed you even had quite a bit of space like down on the bottom. what if on the bottom, instead of it saying square, what if there were maybe the attributes of a square? You know, 4 sides, 4 right angles. And so instead of the vocabulary, it has the definition. That could be another thing to do. You know, one thing I had in my list to mention, and didn't, I forgot to mention it, is what if we brought in the alphabet? Go find the letter A everywhere you can find it. Go find 3-letter words. Go find 5-letter words. I think about all the words at a grocery store. Kids could be finding words all over the place. So,
and that would keep them busy while you're shopping.
Absolutely, right? Yeah. Of course, they'll want to buy everything in their viewfinder. Right? Look, I found Snickers. Put it in the cart. All right. Hey, thanks everybody for sharing and playing along and being creative. And Cassie, when it's our turn, you just jump right in and be your brilliant self.
Oh, thanks.
All right. Thanks, everybody. So leave the breakout room, but don't leave the meeting, right? Okay. See you back in the other room. Hi, everybody.
Hi, Scott.
Good afternoon.
Hello, Elin. Hello, Hannah. And Imelda, hello. Good to see you again.
So we have Christina and Nikia. I think that's Nikia Vu.
Hello, this is Christina.
And Christina from Central Valley Children's Services Network.
Yes. Hi.
Good afternoon. Glad you're here.
Yes, thank you.
Was everybody able to get into the Jamboard?
I'm getting in, but I'm not seeing the controls that I normally see.
Let's see.
Like off to the left,
Right.
I'm not seeing like where I could choose a sticky note. Am I the only one? Oh, it's.
Oh.
For me, it says that there are currently too many people viewing this file. Please try again later.
Oh yeah, mine says unview. Mine says unview only.
I'm sorry, I can open mine, but it says view only.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat.
And I don't have anything.
Uh-oh. Yeah, I'm experiencing the same thing. Let's see.
Let me send a quick maybe Slack message to Paul. Ethan, why don't you send him a chat message? Although I don't know that chat will make it out of our breakout room.
Yeah, I'm not sure either.
I mean, we can still have a conversation and maybe
Yeah.
just do some, what's that stuff that people used to use? Paper?
Paper? Pen?
What do they call it? Yeah.
Yeah. So if we can't access the Jamboard, more than happy to help capture some thoughts around those questions and add them to the Jamboard later when we have access.
Yeah.
So I can start us. That first question was, what are some ways organizations we are supporting? What are some ways as organizations we are supporting our previous participants while expanding their reach to new stakeholders?
Oh, you know what? Bev just put a good message in our Slack that if we only have one person kind of volunteer to be our note taker and open the Jamboard, then it won't it won't get overrun. So I'm fine doing that if everybody else is okay with that.
Okay.
I'll listen and add some post-it notes, although I'm still only view only, but I will request edit access.
And I've closed mine completely.
Okay.
Yeah, I closed my tab also.
I just closed mine as well. I mean, not that I was getting anywhere, right? But
okay.
Same here. I'm off of my page.
Okay. Well, I sent a request to edit, and we'll get there.
Yeah. What might be some of your thoughts around that first question?
well, I was thinking that now I'm actually able to reach my coachees all together on Zoom. That's a plus about this new distance learning, because before I had to kind of manage between my classroom and going to different sites, and schedule-wise, we weren't really able to all get together at the same time. So now, for discussion purposes, we're able to connect a little quicker, and it's more efficient. So on the plus side, I mean, that's something where I feel that I'm giving a little more support, because I'm able to reach them out at whatever time during the day, because I have more of this available time now, and it's a little more flexible in a sense. And then we're all able to see each other like we're doing now, in terms of, just getting together and having this discussion. So I think more of a discussion time.
So benefit to our shelter in place orders is you're able to connect with others through Zoom or other virtual platforms. And so that way with your coaching, you're able to connect with the folks that you were working with last year, and still keep in, and you actually have more time to engage with them and support them.
And we're able to collaborate. The collaborative part of it is the thing that I think it's like the most positive, because before I was going individually, and the only time we got together was during the PLs. But now we're all able to collaborate. So the coachees and myself, we're all together discussing. So they're all getting the same information at the same time. Whereas before I had to spread myself to like 10 different teachers, different sites. So that's something I was thinking about when you were asking a question, how, on a positive note.
This is Jerry from Sonoma. I think what we're doing that's continuing the process is that we're continually sharing all of the AIMS resources that come our way to the current, or to the people that we were currently working with. And our hope is that we're going to continue providing some trainings and in-services via Zoom as well too. I think we're talking about 2 events that we'll have, and we're opening that up to all of our early care and education providers in our county.
Great. Is there anybody else who would like to share around that question? I'm looking at. Trying to find the questions.
Oh, right. If I'm the only one with the Jamboard, then maybe I'm the only one who can see the questions.
I was trying to pull up the slide deck so I can look at the, best practices. The next question was around best practices for virtual distance learning that we can share for both educators and children. So in your work so far, have you come across any best practices that really seem to be working that you might like to share?
I think what we've learned is just keep it short and keep it active. That seems to be the best way to engage them. As long as it's a short session and it is an active session, we seem to get a little bit more interaction. We actually had to do our last event this past time virtually, so Zoom process, and we kept it within an hour and a half, and we had about 3 hands-on activities we did with them in that hour and a half. Wow. So the pace was fast, but it was good. We got good response from it.
Nice.
Yeah, so keeping things short and active, keep it moving.
I think we're sharing earlier about just keep the resources coming. I think right now, a lot of our teachers, what they really are grateful for is anytime we give them those resources that are simple, that are, accessible not only to them, but to the parents as well, because we're all in the same boat. We're all mostly at home. So if you come up with, resources or activities where we can get those materials that are already readily accessible to us and the parents. So I think that's the greatest part in terms of best practices.
Yeah. So short, active, simple.
Simple, accessible.
And keep it coming.
Yeah, exactly.
But, kind of a piece that I'm hearing with that is not overwhelming people. Like, here's a million ideas for you right now. Here's one idea. You can do it tomorrow. Now, next time, here's another idea. You can do it tomorrow.
Like even our activity from today, like the viewfinder, something like that, where I noticed that if you do, it's just one activity and then you can show how you can extend it in different ways or how you can use it in different ways. I think that's a plus. I mean, it's very helpful. I know for me as a teacher, I'm also teaching. I'm not only coaching, it's really helpful. I was already thinking the many ways I'm going to use this. I can use this activity for during the week in many ways with my students, send it out as a home activity, or I can do it during a small group activity. So, I think you're absolutely right. I think it's not overwhelming, but at the same time offering something that is, simple, but that you can extend it in different ways.
For us, we're also extending not only with our teachers, but with our parents. We're trying to do the extending piece through social media. So any activities that our staff are doing with the children, they are also sharing it through social media of these are the tools you can do at home for the parents to also work with their children. And we'll provide all the materials for them to bring back and show us what it is that they've created at home. So that's one little piece that we're trying to keep the parent engagement going through all this.
I was thinking of the same thing.
I'm just curious, what social media platform do you find works the best or families connect with the most? Do they use Facebook, Twitter? I'm just curious.
CSN has a Facebook going, so we cannot connect through Facebook as far as like our childcare centers. So what we do is we use Instagram. We noticed that a lot of our families are active with Instagram. So there we're able to share stories, videos, photos of children doing the different activities throughout the day. And we do see a pretty good response. We've even done live videos and we can see which parents are actually viewing the videos live. So it's neat to see that they are very much active through social media.
Great. Thanks for sharing that.
I think anything you can utilize, like FaceTime too, is a good media too, because it's accessible on their phones, which is really nice.
So any other thoughts around best practices for virtual and distance or virtual distance learning?
I don't know if it's best practices or just a challenge in some ways, is how to get to a good best practice method. But engaging in this media is really hard. It's really hard to draw people's thoughts out and get them to engage. And we try a lot of different ways, but it's still a difficult media to do that in. So any practices in that respect would, if anybody could share, would be appreciated.
So Jerry, I'm wondering if is your question more about how to engage adults or children? It sounds more.
Yeah, I'm thinking of adults. Yeah, I think again, it's just the media itself. Some people feel comfortable enough, like me, feel comfortable enough they could share. But there's a lot of people that it's easy to just sit back and listen and be quiet, in this type of media that we're working with. So I try my best to find ways of saying, can somebody read this? Can you share this with me? Or here's some examples. Tell me how you feel. So we're constantly, asking those open-ended questions to encourage the exchange and conversation.
Sure. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think some of the best practices we have with our younger learners, they keep it active, simple, and short. Work well with adults too.
Yes. I think you're right.
Yeah, and I think I often have to stop and remember too the practices that we had in place when you're face to face also still apply virtual, but we forget. Like there's some people that are just like when you're in a room, they're quiet and they like to sit in the back and they're still listening and taking in things, but they are not the type that are going to be maybe engaging in the discussion. But then there's also those people that really like to share and, are the first people to put things in the chat or unmute. And that's good too. So you just have we all just have to remember to keep that in mind on a virtual platform too. And remember that there's all different types of learners and ways to engage. Yeah, but that's hard. It's hard too when you have like a wall of silence.
You're right, though. It's good to remember.
Elin shared a thing last week that's now kind of screaming around the teacher social media of teachers. What was it, Elin? Teachers tell kids every time you interact, I'll put a sticker on my face, and so now on camera and they've got stickers all just. Anything goofy, just to get people to interact,
Crazy. Yeah, each time somebody new, participated, the teacher would put a sticker on someplace on themselves. And so I actually tried it. I did a demo lesson with a 5th grade class, and by the end I had, and it was a small class, only 15, but by the end of the time I had like 8 stickers all over. So that was fun. It was fun.
That's a great idea. In a live training, I would often give them, we did a drawing. So every time they responded, I would give them a ticket, like a little raffle ticket. So at the end of the session, they throw their raffle tickets into a pot and we draw for gifts. Well, the person who spoke the most or interacted got the most tickets to throw into the raffle. So that's a great idea.
In the chat, I just put a link to a Washington Post article that talks about that. Like,
awesome.
Why are teachers' faces covered in stickers?
I love it.
So should we move to the next question? How are we enhancing family engagement with mathematics through these uncertain times and beyond?
I think it goes back a little bit from what we were saying, just connecting them with different, platforms. I know some of my parents feel like, email is a little more private instead of social media. So I do have those parents that would rather me email them, videos and stuff like that, or use Google Classroom. They feel a little more, like secure instead of using, Facebook or Instagram. And then I also think, like we were saying also about keeping it simple for our parents as well. I think it's easier, and then parents, the participation I think they're more supportive and they feel like participating, and then they encourage their children to participate if stuff is made accessible and simple. Just like we feel, I think it's because right now, basically they're our partners in crime. They're the ones that are there with us, are our co-teachers. So if we make it, engaging for them, then they will encourage their children, and then, it makes it a lot easier for us as well if they participate in that sense.
So really, I hear you saying using what's most meaningful to the parent, not just you have to be on my Facebook page or you have to answer my email, but there's so many avenues in choosing the one that each parent would like.
So for example, I use Google Classroom, I use email, and then I also have like some of the parents would rather just see things posted up. So I have like Class Dojo.
Oh, yeah.
It's true. Some parents just like to go ahead and they'll check out, and you can see if they saw, like on Google Classroom and Class Dojo, you can see if they went to view it or not. So some parents just decide to be behind the scenes and they just like to view the stuff and not so much, post anything. Or sometimes they'll text me something or they'll email it to me. And if they're not that comfortable with posting or they don't know how to do it, then, I'll do it for them. So they also see their children's work. So I also have access to like, there's an app and you can get like a different number. So it's not my personal number, but it comes through my phone. So the app, you can choose the number. So then my parents also communicate with me through text. So some parents feel comfortable just sending me, their child's like home activity on text. It's easier for them. So yeah, just using different platforms.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it sounds like you've spent a lot of time finding the ways that parents are the most comfortable communicating with you, especially since, you are not able to go, meet at a site and have those face-to-face meetings, but you still want to be able to connect and like you said, know that they have them know that this is a partnership. So.
Right. Absolutely. I think for our young ones, that was the biggest thing. At the beginning they were saying, oh, how are we going to engage our little ones? But it was more of like for students from 3 to 5, it's like, how are you going to engage the parents first? You have to get our parents to learn how to use Zoom first before you even want to target our little ones. So that was like the biggest thing. Like first, if it would have been on site, of course, it's our students first. But in this case, we had to target our parents first. We had to figure out a way to engage parents, get them to connect, understand how to connect. And, you know, a lot of parents were not comfortable seeing themselves on the screen. They were wondering about privacy, you know, so, you know, just getting them comfortable and secure about using any platform.
Those are some great points that you're making. I heard someone comment about how we need to be respectful of those parents and how they feel about even having their home viewed in the background and things like that, you know, and it's okay to turn off your camera and be able to just speak to each other. So, and being able to accept that, you know, good points.
Yeah, as both of you were speaking, I was just thinking, especially, you know, in this time, we need to remember that, you know, these are children that are entering school or experiencing either in preschool or through their daycare, a school type environment for the first time. This is their first experience. So it's really important for that to be positive, because that's going to help set the stage for the rest of their school experience. So that is a really key thing to remember. I mean, I know the question was around mathematics, but if we don't create that environment where parents feel safe and feel like the school is in a partnership with them, or the daycare or preschool, then if that is not there, then it makes any kind of learning hard to experience for the parents and the children. So that's really, really, really important. So thank you for sharing.
I mean, with kids, we say, you know, kids will only learn from somebody they have a relationship with. And I think just all those different social emotional boundaries and respect, and that provides relationship with the family so that learning can happen. I think that's a really good point.
I mean, going back to the math piece, I think it just goes back to that parent relationship, just making things really accessible. I know that for our families, like our low-income families, it's easier, and they do participative stuff. Is more of like, oh, you know, when you go to the grocery store, what did you notice? If we just have it, make a discussion, you know, make the activity is going to be a discussion with our students, with our little ones. What did you see? You know, we went to Target. Okay, what did you see at Target? Did you see any colors? What shapes did you see? Something like that. That's easy for parents to also guide their students. I have a lot of parents that are non-English speakers, so they feel more comfortable when it's an activity where I also include pictures of, you know, this is what you're going to do. And I translate it, but some of them are just like, you know what? They look at the picture, they know what it's going to be about, so they feel comfortable because it's not a big explanation. And that way it's simple for them to explain to their child. So, you know, or having a, you know, little scavenger hunt, things like that. I mean, I think it's very important, especially when you're having math activities, with parents to really understand and to make the concepts a little more simple to understand. Or what's the purpose of this? I know that with my parents, they want to know the why. A lot of my parents want to know, like, why are we doing this, Ms. Mendez? Why do we need this? Or what are we going to do at the grocery store? Or like, we're doing a clothing study right now through creative curriculum. So, you know, I was telling them, you know, oh, you know, have your children help you, you know, pair up the socks, you know, when you're doing laundry. So things like, they enjoy stuff like that. That's more hands-on, not so much, you know, paper, pencil, or the ruler, or whatever it is. So I try to do a lot of those activities that do not require them to use too many supplies. That involves more of the conversation piece. So or the share out and stuff like that. Even for parent, we have like little mini parent PDs. And so I do ask parents for feedback. And I see that they enjoy it a lot more when they don't feel the pressure of like, oh my God, she's asking us a right or wrong answer, because automatically they feel like if it's a question, like a directed question from me, they might feel that is there a right or wrong answer. So if I just leave it open to discussion, like an open-ended question, like we would be asking our students or our teachers, parents also feel comfortable. We just say, oh, so, what did you think about the activity? When you went to the store, when they were doing the pairs, putting the pairs together, the socks and stuff like that. So.
Yeah, so it sounds like you're really making an effort and being mindful about keeping or connecting with the home environment, and really letting parents and families know that is a place where learning happens too. That they don't necessarily need to have the tools or all the tools that you have at school. That learning can take place when you're sorting the laundry or at the grocery store. And so that really helps bring value and validates their culture, their community, their home, and as a place of learning as well. How are we doing on the Jamboard, Scott? Oh, I think you're muted.
Boom, there we go. Yeah, we're doing great. I'm typing furiously. We've got about 4 minutes left. We might want to jump to that last piece.
Okay.
Which really is just, what are some additional questions you might want to explore together during the rest of this year? What have you noticed? What are you wondering about? What are some things you'd like to know? And I know sometimes when there's questions like that are so broad, it's hard to think of something. So maybe think, we just narrowed it down to children's mathematics. Is there something you're wondering about or would be hoping for or hoping to see?
I think I'm just looking for a shift and thinking about math, not just in the terms of route counting and numbers, but all of the other things we've been introducing to them. I'd love to see that more visible in the classrooms or maybe virtually. Unfortunately, I'm still seeing like the ditto sheets that are going home because that's a little easier to photocopy and send home. So I love the thought of all of this material that goes home, or finding activities that materials are accessible at home so that they can see that a little more broadly. And I like the idea of them taking math outside of the home too. So again, just a shift in thinking about math and actually seeing it happening is what I'm hoping for.
So that playful, hands-on, constructive, play-based, you're not
provoking.
Yeah, you're not seeing that in this distance learning world, and you're maybe looking for ways to encourage that happening more.
Right. I think, like I said, when we do these things with the teachers, when we're presenting to the teachers in that manner, my hope is that they are going to take it and give it to the parents in that same manner as well, sharing it that way. I like the idea that we were saying about visual pictures sometimes can be more helpful to parents than written instructions. Or even if they could get onto a video session and learn how to do something like we're doing with, seeing it through the camera and you actually manipulating the materials and understanding how to put something together. So I'd love to see teachers take that same application that we're training them in to train their parents. And then this way parents are able to share with their children a little easier. I experimented on that, by the way, with my own son and his children. And it was really interesting because I said, okay, let me show you how to do it. And then all of a sudden he was showing his children how to do it right there while we were FaceTiming together. So it was really fun to see that he was able to see it and then immediately did it himself with his children. Thank you.
For me, I've been working with counting collections. So I find that counting collections can be used in every kind of way possible. And I was thinking about what Scott was saying, using the viewfinders about, okay, find 3, find 5, or even like a quick image. I've also had parents help their children just with the phone, take a picture of their own collection. So on a weekly basis, what I do is I choose a collection. I said, oh, does anybody know whose collection this belongs to? And the kids are like, oh, it belongs to, Valeria. And then I'm like, oh, okay, I go, what do you guys see? So kind of like a noticing activity for the kids. That's really fun. So I'm thinking of just keeping that momentum going in terms of, really making it hands-on, staying away from that, pre-cut, the dittos and that kind of stuff. I think their minds really need to get working. So.
All right.
Thank you.
My window just popped up, says we have 30 seconds. So anybody, you've got this long and it's shrinking. Thanks everybody for sharing. Thanks, Elin, for kind of leading that discussion.
Thank you.
Sure, great to hear from everybody and meet some new people.
See you back in the other room.
Bye.
Welcome back, everyone. I'd like to turn it over to Aileen Rizzo, who is our Associate Director of PK-12 at the AIM Center, to facilitate some discussion. So Aileen.
Unmute. Hi, everyone. Thanks for going to the breakout sessions. I hope that you had some of your ideas and questions and curiosities around that subject attended to and had some very careful discussions. In the Padlet that was shared with you is a kind of a snapshot of every session that happened. If you'd like to learn more about that, you have the person who presented if you're curious about the comment on there. But through the coaching and looking at ideas of mindfulness, how to pause and how to listen, coaching was one of those pieces that we're all not used to, and especially in this virtual environment, it's not as easy as it was before. So really harnessing and wanting to conserve core values like good relationships, extending trust, and good listening skills. We still want to have that with the participants that we work with as your coaches, as your leaders, or supervising others. So thanks for sharing those. Was there anyone in the coaching session? I'll leave it open for a little while. Was there anyone who wanted to share something that came out to you, or a highlight or an aha moment there?
Hi, Eileen, it's Mary. I was in the coaching session with Elin, and you have a good summary of what we talked about in the brief moment that we were able to meet up together. But we went over how with the point to listen to hear and not to necessarily what we're going to say next. And we covered the 2 Ps and how that for pause, it's kind of twofold. We want to pause to listen, and we also want to pause to allow the person to think. And then paraphrasing covers 2 components as well. It allows us that time to acknowledge what was stated and then also to clarify if something wasn't necessarily clear to us. and also to summarize and organize what was stated. And then we had some time to practice listening and pausing, and then also paraphrasing.
That's great. Those are great values for all of us to remember, no matter how long we've been coaching. Thank you, Mary, for sharing. It's a thing to remember in this time, to be human-centered, what we like to call it the AIM Center, to value someone's perspective, to truly listen, to connect the dots, and to really support them in the journey. And it's not only evaluative. It really is coming alongside them and being on that journey together. So thank you. So I was in the session with geometric reasoning. Is there anyone from that session want to share some highlights? We didn't choose someone, but does anyone want to volunteer?
Okay, I can. This is Joan.
Thank you, Joan.
It was all about the relationships. The dynamic piece was about the relationships. I was supposed to look for a right triangle, and I realized that it took some thinking about, I couldn't find too many right triangles, but every square or every rectangle I looked at, I could envision slicing diagonally from the upper to the lower corner, and I found that right triangle. So even when students can't find exactly what they're looking for, it's about the interesting part is about the relationship of shapes and how things can transform, and and so I thought that was interesting.
Yes, thank you, Joan, for sharing that. That was one of our aha moments, is just the relationship. So we talk about, decomposing shapes. And I like the vocabulary that Joan used, how she was imagining how that triangle fit in the corner. That's what we want our students to be able to do. To decompose that mentally is a great aspect and skill for them to kind of further their spatial reasoning in. So think about not only finding the exact shape that's in your environment, but where are other shapes composed of the shape that you're looking for? And that's what ways we can integrate geometric reasoning. So Brooke's group talked about scaffolding down. So what kind of activities are pre this activity? What kind of things do our younger ones do? They can't exactly make a shape viewfinder. They might be able to engage with one, but what other things do they do that still function around these skills and this content? So anyone from that group ready to share?
Yeah, I'm going to share for the group.
Hi, Jenny.
Hi. So we talked about various different activities that we could do. We talked about the variations with like a toddler age student to an infant age. And so thinking about like an infant, of course, they are not able to do any of the cutting or any of those sorts of things, but having a teacher pre-make the viewfinder, but possibly laminating it and making it a little thicker so that maybe an infant that is more like 6 to 7 months, someone who can like have like a grasping grip, they can hold on to it. The teacher could be reading a book and they could be using the viewfinder to find objects like in the book and really naming what they're seeing. But since infants are very like tactile, we talked about also having those objects, if you're looking at different colors in a book, having different items of that same color so they could see it through the viewfinder, but then also have that tactile item that infant can like play and touch and put in their mouth since they are exploring. And for an infant, I apologize, for a toddler, we thought, okay, so they don't necessarily aren't able to do all the cutting, but if the teachers cut and do some of the activities, a toddler can, personalize it by drawing or adding stickers or doing some of the dot markers, something like that. And then a teacher could also laminate it and it becomes something that they could use over time. And we've talked about that as well, but we talked about also using the viewfinder to look for like colors, not necessarily just shapes, We talked about, maybe for like older students, maybe preschool, kinder, they could start looking for like numbers and letters and different variations that can be used with it as well.
Thank you, Jenny. Those are some great ideas about just looking at the characteristics in a shape, recognizing them, and getting their vocabulary. They're building their vocabulary, and that's so important. Scott talked about what does it look like when we extend the activity? So in that group, you were talking about what's next, how do I do more with this? So what kind of things were in that discussion? Does someone want to share in there?
So that's me, Cassie from Shasta County. And we kind of talked about, you could really take it anywhere. Taking it on a walk in the park, taking it to the grocery store, even driving down the road and, either having them identify shapes themselves, or even some of those spatial concepts of, what's over your head, that they can look that way. And talked about the depth, so things that are much bigger for them, skyscrapers that, you may have to step back in order to get the whole picture inside your viewfinder, and really expanding that learning. And some of the things we talked about graphing, maybe using, go look for 3 items that fit in your viewfinder, and then maybe even making some kinds of posters, or here's all our collection of 3s, and, being able to compare them, graph as a class, how many things can you fit inside the viewfinder, those types of ideas, as well as, using it for the attributes, my viewfinder, I don't tell Brooke, but instead of starting with the shape itself, I left a bigger space at the bottom, and then I just wrote, what shape is it? Thinking of going already beyond that. And, if I already have an idea of what a square is or a shape is, I can go around the room and say, oh, there's my circle, there's my square. And, being able to work on more of that understanding.
Mm-hmm. That's great. Those are some great ideas. Did you want to share something else?
I was just going to say, Scott asked me to take a picture. We were talking about lining things up. So if, we did, we did bring up that, kids are on their phones all the time, but also doing a lot of virtual learning right now. And so just the skill that it takes to line up something within your viewfinder and the camera, and be able to then obviously upload it to the Padlet. So, kind of pulling in some of the things that any more kids do naturally.
Yes, very good. I was just going to share, we talked a little bit about the circle and what other things we could do. And we talked about inscribed and circumscribed. So what we could talk about, if we use our circle, not only recognizing the circle in the environment, but extending that might be, can you find a shape that will be inscribed in the circle? Can you find a place where the shape circumscribes the circle? So adding a little bit more of that activity, more of those shapes, you might use inside and outside as your spatial reasoning words, or you might go into inscribed and talk about what that means if they're older students and ready for some of that vocabulary. So lots of ways to extend it. Last but not least is so important, the parent-home connection. And that has been one of our challenges. And I think one of the successes of COVID is really telling us as a whole nation and a community how important that home environment is for learning, and how the equity and access piece has been highlighted in various ways. So I know Bev led this group. Is there someone who'd like to share about your conversation?
I'm going to share. This is Obioma. So we talked about how we could utilize the shape viewfinder at home, and also creating a take-home kit by being aware of who and why we are creating the kit. who our audience is and what activities that it could be utilized for, and the types of materials that can be utilized. So we did talk about like getting different items in the house for, let's say, accounting activities. So the children have the opportunity to find whatever materials they around them. It could be socks, it could be different things around them that they could utilize for the counting. And also looking at how can we get feedback from the parents, and what kind of different ways are they providing us feedback? Because with our feedback, we could actually utilize that as an assessment tool for the students, and also see what areas we might need to better support the parents and the students at home. So that way it's not one-sided. We're getting that two-way communication from the teacher to the family, and the family back to the teacher. So I'm just gonna go over some of the activities that people, like members of the team, identified that you could utilize, looking at different items around the house that can be used for counting and sorting. And we could use spaghetti noodles to make shapes with corners. Making parents aware that they are already teaching math to their children by doing everyday activities when they go to the grocery stores, when they're cooking at home. They're also implementing some form of math activity. And when they go out for a walk in the neighborhood, utilizing their shape viewfinder, they could find shapes as they're working around the neighborhood and getting some fresh, much deserved fresh air. And have children help parents measure ingredients when preparing meals. And scavenger hunts for shapes, patterns, and always seem very engaging, different engaging activities for students. And an example of one of the ways to provide feedback that we talked about was actually posting pictures on ClassDojo or any other web-based app that we might be using, because children like to show off the things that they do. So that is a very good way of getting that feedback from the home. And also have measuring different tools that could be utilized at home, measuring tools and rulers, scissors, and blocks. Those are items that we could include in the take-home kit. And we're providing a take-home kit and looking at the equity lens when we provide those materials. So we have materials that would support the students at home as the implementation of the curriculum. It could be paper, pencils, rulers, crayons, scissors, things that otherwise they would not have at home. That if we could provide that as part of a take-home kit for the students, that would support their learning at home. And then parent support, we also talked about parents need to be affirmed in what they are already doing and how they continue to do what they're doing with a math lens. Because right now, our teachers are doing a lot of the support with our preschoolers. So without them, it probably wouldn't be possible to implement the virtual classes that we currently have. But with their support, we just need to encourage them and affirm what they're doing and give them those kudos that they're really doing a great job supporting us and providing us feedback to support the students at home. So that's what we talked about.
Thank you so much for sharing that. That brought up a lot of great points. Not making assumptions about the stuff that children have at home or have access to. Not making assumptions about how empowered parents feel. Some parents, when you say helping your child with math, the visual mental picture may not be very positive. But when math looks playful, like making a shape viewfinder and going for a walk, it doesn't look like tears coming down your eyes because you have to finish 50 problems on a math worksheet, right? And that might be what a parent thinks of right away when they think of helping a child with math. This is getting reframed. We're reframing the narrative through these playful activities and really bridging the gap. And so thank you for all of these powerful conversations. I hope we can continue to have them throughout the rest of this year. I'm going to turn it back over to Paul.
Thank you, Aileen, and thank you everyone for engaging in these conversations, for sharing your insights, and for collaborating around this activity. We hope that this finds a place in your own repertoire of activities and resources that you're able to use in your own work. At this point, we're going to take a break. So we're going to take a 15-minute break. We want everyone to take some time to stand up and stretch and get away from your computer for a bit. And we'll regroup here at 3:05. We'll have an opportunity for some roundtable conversations around some of the things that you're doing in your contexts, some of the successes and challenges you're finding, as well as brainstorming new questions that we can ask together as a group. And then we'll have a much sought after, much desired Matilda moment at the end of our session and a conclusion at 3:45. So we will see you all back here at 3:05. Have a great break. New stakeholders. One of the things that we worked hard to do in the last iteration of our initiative was to select some folks that we would work with and that we would support. We would do professional development and coaching with. So this question is really around, are you as an organization, are you finding ways to support those folks to continue to do so, as well as to broaden that and include new folks into that? The second question is, what practices for virtual or distance learning can we share that we're finding are working both for educators and for children? Or either or. So what are you finding in your work that seems to be working? What have you learned from your previous experiences? And maybe what are some of the best practices that you want to put into place? The third question is, how are we enhancing family engagement with mathematics throughout these uncertain times and beyond? We had a hint of some of that today, and we've explored some of that in the past. And so in your small groups, have some conversations around how are you engaging families, and what are some ways that you're doing that both now, but then also into the future? And then finally, the fourth is sort of a choose your own adventure question, which says, what other questions would you like to explore? So as a small group, think of another question that you think in this group, in this community, would be worth exploring together. And the way that we're going to do this is we're going to use something that's called a Jamboard. And if you've not used a Google Jamboard before, this is a place where we can record thoughts in the form of sticky notes. And so on the Google Jamboard, your small group will create 4 sticky notes, one for each of the boards. There are 4 boards, each corresponding to a question. And you can see here, the question is on the board, and then you will be able to add a sticky note to that board. So as a small group, I would ask that you would create 1 sticky note for each board, and you'll have to come to some consensus, or maybe one of you has an insight that you can put together and share. But each group does not have to put sticky notes on individually, but just as a group to put a sticky note on each of the 4 boards. So what I'm going to do at this point is I'm going to go ahead and include this, the Jamboard link, which is, it's a bit.ly link. I'm going to go ahead and put that into the chat right now so that you can click on that and access that. Let me put that in the chat here. So that is our Jamboard for today. And so if you use that link, and then one of the things that we're going to do is we'll break into those small groups, and it will be opportunity for you to think about those 4 questions and to have some conversation, and then put a sticky note on each of those 4 Jamboards. So hopefully everyone is able to access that Jamboard and get started on that. And I'm going to go ahead and get the breakout groups up and running so that we'll have that opportunity to have that conversation. And then I will bring everyone back as soon as we are ready to share out a bit. Welcome back, everybody. Thank you so much for engaging in small group conversation. The Jamboard is a colorful, vibrant representation of current things we're doing, ideas, values about how we might go forward with this work. And so I'm excited to continue to view this Jamboard. We will keep this Jamboard open and public. So if there are further ideas that you have or thoughts that you'd like to add to it, or if you haven't had a chance yet to read and reflect on some of the ideas that are present there, we encourage you to do so. And so we had a little minor technical difficulty, but at this point, everyone should be able to either view it or add sticky notes. So we got that fixed. Thanks for your patience along the way. But we're excited to be able to continue to think about ways we can work together. So I know that there are a few questions that were added to the fourth board, which was what can we continue to explore together going forward? So we'll continue to look at those. If you have other thoughts or ideas after this session concludes that you want to add to that, please do so. And that can help us to reflect on our time together and can guide our future work going forward. At this time, I want to turn it over to Matilda for some Matilda moments. So Matilda, take it away.
Thank you, Paul. And I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. All right, can everybody see my screen? All right, I'm seeing nods. But before I talk about some of the resources, and some of these you've heard before, I'm just going to reiterate, and then some of the resources that I'm going to share are a little new, and we'll keep you posted of when they're available. But I just wanted to start by saying, I know Paul gave a big thank you at the beginning, but I just wanted to round it out and say thank you again. We appreciate our partnership with all of you. I know right now it's a frustrating, challenging time, and what inspires me is really working with all of you that are working so hard on behalf of our youngest learners. So just thank you so much for all that you do in your communities and for partnering with us on this awesome initiative. And I hope that you have an awesome, restful break. Paul and I were talking about, having an opportunity to check off our list of to-dos. Even though some of us are working from home, we're not doing some of the things at home or watching Netflix, or do whatever that you do to relax and rejuvenate for the new year. So again, just on behalf of the Office of the Fresno County Superintendent of Schools and all of our partners, AIMS and WestEd, and the California State Board of Education and California Department of Education, thank you so much for partnering with us and for all that you do in your communities. But I wanted to share some of the resources. Some of these you've already downloaded and used within your communities. Some of you that are new, this may be the first time that you're being introduced. Some of our resources include what's called book reviews, and there's two different formats. There's the longer version that's featured here on the left side of your screen. There are different books that are children's literature that's focused on math, and then different activities with downloadable materials that you could use with children and with families. So there's the longer version that teachers, early care and educational professionals could use, and then there's the abbreviated versions for families to be used directly with their children. On the right side of the screen is one example of a research brief that were developed by our partners at WestEd. And there's a series of different topics on arithmetic skills, counting, and family engagement, and all have been translated into Spanish. The book reviews also have been translated into Spanish. So there are, I believe, 3 research briefs, if memory serves, and there's over 100 book reviews translated into Spanish. So they're English and in Spanish. We're also in partnership with WestEd creating a series of video guides, a series of professional development videos that are highlighting effective math teaching practices. And so those will be made available to you as you work with early care and education professionals within your communities. We'll let you know when those are available for use. We're also in partnership with AIMS and California State Board of Education. We're also developing a family engagement guidance document that includes guidance on how to implement family math nights within your communities, how to go about implementing large-scale but low-cost installation exhibits within your communities. And so that should be made available probably next year sometime. So where could you find all of these materials? So some of them, many of them are located, you can find them on the California Early Math Project website. There's a couple of different places, and I'll put these websites also in the chat box. You could also find them on the AIMS website. If you go to the CAEMI or the California Early Math Initiative portion of the website. And finally, ultimately, they'll all be available on the Early Math app that we're developing. We're in the testing phase right now. We're really close to launching that app. So again, the California Early Math Project website, the AIMS website, and then ultimately the Early Math app that we're developing. I'll put the two websites listed here in the chat box for you to go and explore. And of course, when the Early Math app is ready to be released, we'll share it with all of you for your use. So again, thank you so much for your partnership. If ever you have any questions or need a Matilda moment, feel free to reach out to me at any time. I'll put my email and phone number in the chat box if you have any questions or would like to reach out. Turn it over back to you, Paul.
Thanks, Matilda. We appreciate that and are excited about ways that we can, as a group, continue to explore the resources that are available through this initiative. And a big thank you to all of the partners for working diligently to put these things together. And I also just want to say that as we use these things, I think, appreciate feedback and collaboration around them to know how they can continue to be improved and built upon. And if you're finding ways that certain things are successful in your context, we'll be looking forward to sharing those ideas and reflections together as we move forward through our initiative together this year. And just in conclusion, we're excited to have 3 further community of practice sessions through the end of May into June. And you can see the dates here for those, so please mark your calendars. More information about those will be coming out. We intend to also distribute some hands-on materials to be utilized throughout these. So more information will be coming regarding that as well. I want to say a big thank you today to the AIMS team, to our AIMS coordinators and coaches, and for all of the diligent work in facilitating. I want to thank all of you, our partners and collaborators, for your engagement today. And we want to wish you all a safe and healthy holiday season. We look forward to partnering with you in coaching conversations and see you again after the new year. Thank you all so much and have a wonderful rest of the day and a wonderful rest of the week.